Whistleblowers are first line of defense against criminal behavior in our government, especially. We believe that they're heroes, and we're going to be talking to someone tonight who has spent decades helping whistleblowers with legal advice and with several books that he's authored. Stephen Cohn, and he's with the Whistleblower Legal Defense and Education Fund. Welcome, Mr. Cohn.
Hello, how are you?
Doing fine. Now, tell us a little bit about your organization and the services that you provide. You've got a legal defense fund as well as whistleblowers.org.
Yeah, the National Whistleblower Center, I helped found it in 1988. We are exclusively whistleblower support. We're nonpartisan. You can blow the whistle on a Democrat, Republican, big business, whomever. We are there for the whistleblower. Our niche, we're well known for the quality of our legal representation. We have a defense fund. We're led by lawyers. I'm an attorney also. And for the last 30 years, we've been perfecting the art of effective advocacy for whistleblowers.
You've written several books going all the way back to the mid-1980s on whistleblowers. And I guess one of the things that people need to understand, we talked recently to a whistleblower from HSBC. So it's, as you point out, it's not just government, but it is corporations and illegal activity that people might see in corporations. But primarily here, we're kind of focused on government. And so I guess one of the things that concerns us is that when people come forward with criminal activity and behavior that they see, it's kind of a sign of just how perverse and complete the corruption is that the government typically comes after them rather than correcting the problem, as we've seen with Edward Snowden. But what would you suggest to a whistleblower if they're working for the government, for example? And we can also talk about what you would suggest if there were somebody that was a contractor like Ed Snowden.
Well, the advice is the same. As you mentioned, I wrote the first book on whistleblower protection back in 1985. There was nothing out there. And since then, we've carefully worked this area of law, precedents, advocacy in Congress, trying to build a network of protections. There's now over 50 federal laws. Many cover private sector, public sector. It's a minefield. Some of the laws are powerful and effective, and some are disastrous. So our first step recommendation is know your rights. Most whistleblowers engage in what I call self-help. They just blow the whistle. It's the right thing to do. They see fraud, they see misconduct, they see corruption, and they want someone to know about it. Unfortunately, to whom you blow the whistle and how you do it can determine whether you're going to win or lose, maybe whether you go to jail, whether you collect a monetary reward. How you blow the whistle and to whom are critical. So one of the things we do through our books, our educational program, is try to educate people on how to do it right. Step one, know the laws. Don't think because you're doing the right thing, some official's going to give you a high five.
Absolutely, because you're exposing people in very high positions of power, whether it's private or especially if it's government. You're exposing criminal behavior. If they're already behaving like criminals, you can certainly expect that they're going to come after you in any way that they can, right?
There's no doubt. Many whistleblowers are naive. They think if they do the right thing, things will work out. But greed, position, promotion, what are the motivators of the managers who retaliate? It's often about really narrow self-interest. If someone has committed a crime, they are going to go after you. They're going to try to discredit you. On the other hand, even if it's not so extreme, if they just don't want to be embarrassed, if they don't want people to know that they messed up a major project, they're going to do everything in their power to silence you. And here's the worst part of it. If they can't silence you, they will try to discredit you.
That's right.
And that's what happens to many whistleblowers. Before they know it, they've got bad reviews, they're being criticized. It's very easy for a whistleblower situation to snowball very quickly in a way that the employee, the whistleblower, is often alone, lacks resources, is being overwhelmed.
That's right. They're going to do an attack on you personally, an ad hominem attack. Destroy your credibility.
It happens all the time. And that's one of our major objections to all this fixation on leaks. Yes, they're going after all the whistleblowers who they think leak, but most of my clients have been the victims of illegal leaks by the government. And no one goes after the government officials who leak on the whistleblower.
Well, the public's pretty familiar with Ed Snowden's case. What do you think about the way that was handled? Did he do it the right way?
Well, the first is he did it a typical way. He worked, he witnessed information, learned information that he thought evidenced serious misconduct, illegal activities, unconstitutional violations. He went to the news media, and he's created change. That is a very typical scenario for a whistleblower. It's also what I call self-help, meaning he did what he thought was the right thing. Mm-hmm. From our perspective, it's always better to take a step back and see what laws exist. Most whistleblowers don't. When they show up in our office, they've usually either made some mistakes or not, and it's our job to try to pick up the pieces. I don't want to second guess his decisions that, might be used against him or whatever, but I will say this. We've represented people with top secret security clearances who have blown the whistle on top secret programs. And it's more difficult representation, it's more costly. Our general means of doing this is through disclosures to Congress. And try to create an atmosphere where maybe it's not the whistleblower who goes to the press. Maybe other people get the information lawfully and they go to the press.
Well, let me ask you about
it's a big problem.
Let me ask you about since we're talking about the NSA, there were 4 whistleblowers that right after September 11th, they noticed a sea change in the way the NSA was looking at data. They went from thin thread to Trailblazer, and they started internally in channels working on this for years. And eventually, the government prosecuted Drake for 4 years with 10 felony counts. Now, he did beat those, and the judge really dressed down the NSA because they were trumped-up charges, but they still came after him, and they didn't really get the information out there nearly to the extent that Snowden did, obviously, or most people only know about them because of Snowden. They've gone back and looked at the history of this. So they went internal, and it looked like they kind of did it by the book, but they were still attacked by the NSA. What are your comments on that?
They're going after whistleblowers now criminally in a way they have not done in the past. Mm-hmm. And it's tragic, it's wrong. But I just want to say that we'll go back to the first World Trade Center bombing. I represented the FBI agent who was in charge of securing the crime scene. And he was threatened with criminal activity. He was threatened with criminal charges for talking to my office. He was threatened with criminal charges for going to Congress. And we were eventually able to get the government to give him permission to go on the Larry King live show and ABC News and blow the whistle on the FBI and give full testimony. It took us about 2 years. And the case shook up the crime lab. It was Frederick Whitehurst. It had great impact. He was under a criminal investigation for years for leaking, but we were able to get around that. So I'm saying is there are channels, there are means, they're very difficult to use. Most whistleblowers don't. What's outrageous here is that everyone has forgotten that in 1968, the U.S. Supreme Court held that government workers can go to the news media and blow the whistle about government misconduct.
Yes.
All of these investigations are acting as if that Supreme Court decision didn't exist.
Yeah,
and
that's true. They're kind of acting as
all this constitutional anyway.
That's right. We're out of time. I'm sorry. They're acting as if the Constitution didn't exist. You're right.
Exactly. They're just ignoring it. And what you have to do is you've got to put yourself right there with the First Amendment and say, we have rights to blow the whistle.
Okay, great. We're out of time. I want to encourage people to take a look at your book, also to be aware of your organization. Tell us again what the organization is.
It's whistleblowers.org, and the book is The Whistleblowers Handbook. I urge any person thinking of blowing the whistle to get the Whistleblowers Handbook, the guide to doing what's right and protecting yourself.
Great. Thank you very much, Stephen Cohen. Thank you for your efforts. It's very important work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good day. Well, it's very important information from Mr. Cohen, and we certainly appreciate the work that he and his organization have done to help whistleblowers. Now, if you want to help InfoWars, you can become a subscriber to Prison Planet TV. Up to 10 people can watch that simultaneously as you watch it. It's a great way for you to blow the whistle on what's going on in the news in a way that you're not going to hear elsewhere. Now, stick around. Right after the break, we have some more special reports.
Stay tuned after the news for more special reports.
Now you can watch The Alex Jones Show live as it happens at Infowars.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
More than 60 movies and documentaries all in one place at Infowars.com/show.
Are we choosing our own destiny, or has it been pre-selected for us?
As we've moved through history, every great leader has had to understand the potential of information.
Billions of dollars have been spent, privately and publicly, looking at how to tap into your psyche.
From compulsory state education to the Hollywood media brainwashing machine, we are kept in perpetual bondage to the ideas that shape our actions.
When somebody obscures that feedback loop between you observing and testing it out and verifying it, they can take total control of your awareness.
All of this is happening so fast, you need to be ahead of the game.
How to engineer the opinion of the American people so that they would not only endorse but demand a war.
Oh, there's another one. Another plane just hit.
State of Mind, because there's a war on for your mind. Get your copy of State of Mind the movie at Infowars.com. And remember, every order at InfoWarsStore.com receives a free citizen rulebook.